Hello, my name is Clive Harris and I'm a Senior Solutions Advisor at Rocket Software. Today I'll be talking about using the OMEGAMON for IMS e3270ui interface to view application trace facility data. So here I'm on my listing of IMS subsystems, and what I will do first of all is check that the application facility, trace facility, is active. So I can move my cursor onto the white arrow and hit enter. And here I can see that the ATF status is active. So now I can go to the first panel for the ATF facility display by entering KIP ATF on the command line. This gives me a list of all the traces that are being defined and whether they're active or inactive. I can get more detail by moving the cursor. And I want to first of all look at the group summary. Now this shows no data because by default only the last 5 minutes of activity is shown and the activity is grouped by transaction. So what I need to do first of all is set up filtering options. Now the PSB and the jobs that I'm interested ran yesterday, and the PSB that I'm interested in is this one. You can additionally set other information, exclude or include types of transactions, and also set limits for exceptions to be triggered based on elapsed time or CPU. And at the moment it's grouped the results by transaction, but I'm going to group them by PSB. Having set up my filter, I can now look at the group summary by selecting option 1. And here we see an occurrence of that PSB that has been scheduled. And we can use the white right arrow to move across to see all the summary information that's been collected. I can now drill down and get more detail from the trace summary. And this shows me that this PSB was used by 2 different transactions. So I'm going to pick this first one. And first of all, I'm going to have a look at the transaction overview by selecting option 1. The overview, first of all, gives me information about the transaction, the total number of calls made by IMS, also gives me details about whether any DB2 or MQ calls were taken, and if we page down, we can see start and stop time, elapsed and CPU time for not just IMS calls, but DB2 and MQ as well. I can now tab across to the API calls, and this gives me some information about the individual calls that were issued. And I can move my cursor onto the right arrow and look across to see all the columns. And you can see here summary counts of the number of different types of DLI call that were executed. I can have a look at statistics on the database accessed, and here we have some information here about the number of reads and updates and deletes. And finally, I can look at the events that took place. And for each individual call or event, I will get a line giving elapsed accumulated CPU, a description of the event, in the case of a DLI call, the function, and some information about the resources, the database, and the segment. and I can page down. The yellow arrow that you saw appear in the box was to warn me that one of the calls had a non-blank status call, and if you see here towards the bottom, there's one highlighted in yellow with a GE status code. I can zoom in on this call and select the event details, and this gives me information about the SSA, segment search argument used, and I can move the cursor over to that field. And this SSA was requesting a record with which didn't exist, hence the GE status code. So if I PF key 3 back now, and I can go back to the beginning, move to the right, and this time I'm going to look at an insert call. So again, I select the insert call, I select the event details. And this time I can look at the contents of the IO area and the contents of the key feedback area. There's a replace call here, so what I'll do is have a look at the get hold before and look for the details of that call. And I'll have a look at the IO area. And if you note here that the two codes here, LHR and CDG, so then we'll have a look at the replace call. And again, we'll look at the event details for the replace call, which was successful. And if I look at the IO area, you'll see here that the CDG has been changed to ARL. And that's a quick summary of how you can use the enhanced 3270 user interface of OMEGAMON for IMS for viewing application trace facility data.
Thank you for watching.